Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing? I think this will be good because it's a conversation. We both that's what I was looking for, not just an expert, but how we used it, what we think about it, and just a really authentic conversation about it. So I think it will be really good.
And I think it's great time because I'm sure you see the posts of those vision boards that they were doing. So then I was like, oh, you know what? I should do that.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Patricia Regier with Regier Educational Services, and this is Trish Talks. I am super excited to have Lesley Calvin joining me today. I am been really looking forward to speaking with you, and we're going to be talking about 2020 vision and vision boards. Now, Lesley, one of the things I thought would be great with connecting with you about this is because you have a quote, "Let's science the fluff up," with a recent presentation. And just as a little bit of an intro as well, Lesley is a certified emotional intelligence, leadership, and organizational culture specialist. So she's a coach, trainer, speaker, and just all around awesome person that talks about energy levels. There's so much more that you can check out about Lesley, and I will definitely have her links below so you can check out some of her stuff as well. So thank you, Lesley, for joining me. And if there's anything else you want to add to your intro, I'm just thrilled that you are joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Patricia. I can't think of anything to add. You absolutely flattered me with that. I do love talking about how we can be happy, how we can engage in our life and the world around us, one positive thought, one positive emotion, and one positive action at a time, right? Because that's what it is. It's incremental. So I love putting that energy out into the world, and I love helping people to cultivate and foster that energy in their own world in a really emotionally healthy and well and intelligent way, but personally, as a leader, and in the workplace.
That's awesome. That's great. And I think it's partly why we've connected in the past too, is we both have some of those principles of positive psychology that, you know, what we put out in the world. And sometimes I think too, even with vision boards, people do see it as fluff in a way, but I think there's some really important reasons why they're a great tool. And I think part of it is that positive self-talk almost.
Absolutely.
What we're putting literally what we're putting in front of ourselves.
Yeah. And as you noted with Science the Fluff Up, when I did the Disrupt HR talk, it was a little bit of a more sassy forum, which is great. But, really sciencing the fluff up, because in so many ways, emotional intelligence, energy, self-management, the things that make up the culture of our lives and our workplaces are sidelined, right? We put so much effort into training and workshops and designations, which are all really, really key. But without being able to self-regulate and have all of that self-actualization, setting your goals, following through, having accountability, and having the inner confidence to go for it. Those are the things that can really hold us back, even with a million designations and certifications, right? So it's important that we bring that fluff, those softer skills, as they say, from the sidelines to the forefront, and go for it, right? And have that ability to go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, and just to clarify for the audience, those of you viewers who are watching us either on YouTube or listening to this as a podcast, or there will be a blog link below as well. I will bring in some of that science, statistics, research into the blog as well. But I think that the great thing with vision boards, and is perfect for being at the beginning of a new year, the beginning of a new decade, is it brings into that visual or even the hands-on learning that lights people up. So they're getting engaged with what they're doing in a physical way when they're putting together pictures together like a collage, or there's other ways you can do vision boards too. But that visual piece, even if someone isn't a visual learner, if they have it in front of them or near them to reference for themselves or to look back at, how much have they accomplished? Or I think a vision board can also be that visual reminder of what we're being intentional about and what actions we're wanting to take to reach those goals as well. So I don't know if you have some thoughts about that too.
Absolutely. I think you detailed that really well. But the pure act of consciously writing it down or being aware of it, raising consciousness and putting it in front of you can help you get there, right? And so if you are visual and you love kind of doing that vision board thing, going to workshops or doing it on your own, it's amazing, because then you can pick those things of what is my goal. So you have to have a little strategic conversation or mindful conversation with yourself. And I divide mine up into sort of the wheel of life, not necessarily on the board, but as I'm doing it, like what are my goals in all the quadrants of my life? And so
like
say if one of my goals is I want to speak to an audience of 500, right? And so be a stretch goal, right? So I'm going to find a picture of a speaker in front of a big audience, and then that's going to be on there, right? So then it's a trigger to me every time I look at it to be like, okay, so what am I doing with intention daily? Because if we have goals, we have to make daily actions to move towards them, right? We can do a vision board, but if we're not actually moving ourselves forward towards it, it's just a nice sort of dream picture. And so what we want to do is actualize and action our vision boards. So if you want to have deeper friendships, if you want to have a healthier lifestyle, if you want to have more financial literacy, right? What can you capture in your picture, and what is it, out of a magazine, pictures, whatever this happens to be that you want to put on words, right? If you're not necessarily a visual person, your vision board can be a piece, like a picture in, let me find my, right? It can be a picture in your whatever you keep notes in that has all those key words on it, right? So make it yours, right? It can be super pretty if that's what you want, but make it like the ultimate goal is we want it to move you ahead, right? So
Yes.
Use whatever medium or whatever outlay that you want, because it's the thing that's going to keep you going. Some folks, when they do them, then they hang them near their wall or their desks, so they can see them daily. Or if it's make it into a kind of a piece of art, then hang it somewhere that you see it daily in your house, right? Just whatever it is, make it something that motivates you and thinks, okay, so what am I doing to incrementally move myself in that positive forward motion towards my goals?
That's awesome. And I really appreciate you bringing in some of those practical aspects of it. I
Always.
think that, even though I'm a very visual person, I like the practical application.
Yeah.
So I understand when people think that some things are fluff, and fluff is not a bad thing, right? But I think that this is being misrepresented a lot of times in how people view it, because it can be a very practical tool. And that's the point of it, is that it's a tool. It's not just an exercise, and then it's what you do with it.
Absolutely. So I do poke fun at myself and the whole sort of genre that I'm in terms of sciencing the fluff up, because I am not necessarily the fluffiest, right? So I really do I like the strategy, and I like that actionable, and I like self-actualization, and I really am interested in making sure everyone is their personal and professional best self, right? And I think that we really need to be able to have a lot of energy self-management and emotional self-management and awareness so that we can be that, right? But it takes a lot of intention. So it's not necessarily super fluffy when I work with it, because I think I want, what are your goals at the end of it, right? So you can do these wonderful vision boards, but where is it going to take you, right? And if you just want to do it and have it as a nice thing, that's great too. But if you
Right.
want to be a better leader, if you want to move forward in your relationships, if you want to move up the corporate ladder or the whatever professional ladder you're looking to expand in, have more impact in your own life, and then use this as an opportunity to
Right.
capture all those real stretch goals. Because worst case scenario, you don't make that 500 person audience, but you make it 250.
That's right.
Right. And if you don't capture it at all, then maybe you don't do anything different. Right. So at least, what is it? A shoot for the stars. Because the worst case scenario, you land in the
Moon
clouds.
or
I don't know.
something. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you want to have a
Exactly.
starting point to be like, what is my wildest dream? And
Mm-hmm.
what can I do to start getting there? Because you can get there.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And I think too, maybe why people shy away from doing it is because it is a stretch goal sometimes.
Yeah.
And they don't want to fall short, or they're afraid of failure. And my video actually that just came out today, so it's already available. I talk a little bit about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a theme I'm hearing from a lot of speakers and videos, and that whole thing of failing forward and all of that, which is awesome. And I think vision boards can be that tool that we use in different platforms, whether it's, I know both you and I have used it in some contexts, but I don't use it all the time in workshops. And I have it on within an activity within an online course that I provide. It can be utilized for different focuses. So whether it's a leadership style, what's their vision for how they're going to interact with their team, or what's a vision. It'd be so cool to have a vision board for an organization, for a whole team to say, what's our vision? Because they do that with the strategic planning, but I don't know that they've ever done, like that people always do it in a picture collage or with words or beyond the vision statement, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if done well, and I've seen some mission, vision, values, facilitation done so well and really exemplifies the organization, then I think that's captured. But so then once you have that, what I used to do with my team when I was in corporate is we would have the vision of the organization, and then what is this, how does that chunk down to be the strategic plan for each individual, right? Because the organizational, it obviously has to be very broad sweeping, and it's usually sort of one line, maybe two lines. But then how does that then translate down to what you're doing in your behind your desk on a daily basis, right? And so then go through that activity with your team, and it's a great, I mean, I facilitated many of those, and it just brings that bigger vision into the hands of each individual, where they feel like, okay, now I am contributing. So it's the same thing when you're doing a vision board for your life, right? It's okay. So this is my usually it would be, I want to be happier, or I want to be more have more inner peace, right? But then how does that chunk down, right? So what does happier mean? Right. So when I'm coaching leaders, and we were talking about fear of failing and stretch goals, we do a lot of visioning and a lot of values exercises, and a really deep dive, not just like, okay, here, give me your five values. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but a real deep dive, so that folks can really understand what their drivers are, and then put that in, right? So, and then what are their stumbling blocks? What are those gremlins that are stopping them? And a lot of times, with high achievers, or type A's, if you will, there's a big area of perfectionism, right? And so as soon as we have an element of perfectionism in it, it can take the fun out of something as simple as a vision board, right? Because then it's that, how do I can't achieve that, so I don't even want to claim to, right? So it's really kind of working, and with some of my clients, then we'll start working on, well, what happens if you don't meet it? Right. And you will survive that. It's building that emotional resiliency. Again, that's that emotional intelligence piece, and having the self-regard. So self-regard is one of the key fundamental pieces of emotional intelligence, and really building that emotional self-regard so that you can self-actualize your dreams and action them
Right.
and put them on paper and claim them.
That's fantastic. And I like that deeper dive part, because I think too, sometimes we take a vision board as a tool, whether it's in coaching or workshops or whatever we're doing, and using it as an activity. It can be a great icebreaker too.
Absolutely.
When I'm encouraging facilitators and speakers and workshop leaders of what kinds of tools they can use in activities, vision board is an option. And I like
Yep.
that you're mentioning to go deeper instead of
Absolutely.
just, like you said, I want to be happy. What does that mean? What are the specific things? So then you can be working
Yeah.
strategically.
And the thing is not only going deeper in terms of, okay, so I want to be happy, or I want to be more peaceful, or I want to sleep better, right? Well, from a coaching perspective, when I'm working with leaders or professionals or anybody, it's okay, so what does that mean? So we get really deep into what does that mean? And then we get really deep into where are the barriers to that happening, right? So we really want to start talking about the negative and positive variants on how do we get you there? How do you get you there? And what are potential pitfalls? And where are you not living? And this is again why we really dig into the values, is where are you not living in alignment with your values? Because if we know our values in a really deep way, then we can start living a very intentional life that aligns with your values, right? And then it's amazing how things start popping into place in terms of that happier piece.
That's
or whatever
great.
that bigger goal is.
So I think that's a different way a vision board can be used too. This is one that I did in 2018 for the online course, and I did a different kind of workshop that I created at that time. And what I did was put together, where am I now and where do I want to be? But I did it really broad, like just future, what's not necessarily for that specific year, but it's neat. And so I just printed it out and I started writing down today, okay, what have I accomplished, or what did I mean by that picture?
Yeah.
And some of them were definitely very future goals, and some of them were, and some of them were personal, and some were professional. And then prepping for this conversation that we were going to have, and and it's funny, we planned this and booked this all before we even started hearing about some of our colleagues doing vision boards recently. Yeah. So it's a common theme for the beginning of a year or beginning of a decade, and people can put together a board for the year or for the full decade as well, even longer term goals.
I love that. That's great. Yeah. Because I love that on yours, you have where are you now? So when you did it, where are you now? And then the future. But even so, using that format, you could do the now, you could do the near future, whatever that means for you. And then the decade. Right?
Yeah. Because or even your barriers, the way you're, of like almost a negative positive, or what challenges and opportunities is what I like to say. But
yeah. Because if we understand where our barriers or our, in terms of coach speak, where our gales or our gremlins are, then we can start doing that inner work. Like inner growth drives outer success. So, but we have to know where they are. Mm-hmm. So if we can start identifying where our barriers are, or where our gales or gremlins are, then we can start poking around them, digging in, doing a bit of that inner work, and then plow through them, right? So that we can get to them.
Right.
One thing that I just wanted to mention is that sort of like the Monday morning diet is, if people are watching this, or listening to your podcast or this video in like 3 months and say, oh, I missed the train, I didn't do it in January. There's no better time to do a vision board than right now. Whenever this right now is. That's because so true. We don't have to wait for the Monday morning to start our diet, right? We don't have to wait till January to start a vision board. If you're watching this and you're feeling inspired, or if you're listening to this and feeling inspired, start your vision board, right? And your future starts right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I appreciate you saying that, because so there's so much hype for the end of a year, the beginning of a year, and sometimes that hype is extra pressure too. Or when someone has had a false start at the beginning and already feels like they failed, they can do it again and again and again. So January, February, March, wherever this ends up landing, or they created something and then didn't look at it for 3 months, it's okay to go back to it. It's never, oh, we got to wait another year. It doesn't work it doesn't have to work that way at all.
And that's exactly it when it comes to, checking in with yourself, or an accountability piece with yourself or someone else. That's why I always do the negative and positive variance, and then sort of figure out a way to note so if you didn't hit your goal, or if you didn't hit whatever your hopes were around your vision board or strategic goals or whatever they happen to be, and say, well, I didn't, and so it was a negative variant. And why? Well, because I was so busy, all I could do was keep my head above water.
Right.
Nope, done, perfect, move on, start again for the next, because that's life. Life gets in the way of our really best laid plans.
Absolutely.
And then you can say, so moving forward, it's not that I didn't hit that goal or that piece of my vision board because I wasn't good enough. It was because that was a really busy season, right? But then as soon as that activity finished for, kids, work, the project, whatever it is, then I had a little time and I dedicated 5 minutes a day to it, and then maybe another time you have 20 minutes a day, right? So be really kind to yourself. And again, this is for all of our perfectionists out there who are like, if I can't do it perfect, I'm not doing it, right? So really, and the positive variance as well. Like I rocked it this quarter because I had extra time because my kids were carpooling and I used that time, right? So whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, build on what is working and give ourselves that grace. And I'll often say I'm a recovering perfectionist, because even when a well-intentioned colleague and I welcome feedback and I welcome, I'm always wanting to learn and grow. But sometimes when a mistake or error is pointed out, I'm like, because that is my part of, I don't like to make mistakes. But
that's when you go to level one from
and definitely everyone needs to check out Lesley's upcoming workshops and the different levels of what are triggers, and then we drop down but when that is that kind of gut because I don't like it hits something in me. But what I'm telling people is to put themselves out there, like growing a YouTube channel. I was not perfect or comfortable in front of the camera for a while, but I wasn't going to get comfortable unless I put myself out there and actually learned the whole publishing and editing and all of that when it wasn't perfect. And to be, that's the only way we're going to grow sometimes. So I think what we put on a vision board, we might not become that perfect version, but as you said, that whole reach for the stars, you will still land on the moon. That's way farther than staying on Earth type thing, analogy.
Absolutely. It goes right back to that Harvard business case study that I was talking at the top of the recording and the podcast is, if you don't, there's science proof, there's statistical analysis on if you put it down on paper, on a vision board, however, you are more likely to hit your goals than if you don't. So go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got so many great books, and that's one of my, I should be putting on a vision board and in my concrete intentions for the year is to read these books, sit down and make designated time because it's fuel. But I've been reading a little bit of Jen Sincero. And I don't know if you have these books or have read them, but in a couple of them, been reading a piece on the words, and it falls in line with the positive psychology too, but the words that we say to ourselves, the words that we put out there, and sometimes that it's a defense mechanism to say, oh, I'm so bad at that. And we're just reaffirming that to ourselves instead of we actually have to start saying kinder words to ourselves before, and you probably get into this, before it actually, we even believe it.
Absolutely, right? Because, so that's one of the first activities with many of my coaching clients is, so it's really important, and that is an activity that I do with my clients to start raising consciousness around what is your inner chatter, right? Because again, with anything, we have to bring awareness to it, and we have to understand where our blind spots are, even when they are to ourselves, right? And so it's, what are we doing about that? But you can't, unless you bring awareness to it, you're not going to see it. Right?
Yeah.
Patterns don't change every day. It's like you can't go to the gym once, get a membership for a year, go to the gym once and be fit, right? You can't buy one salad and not eat better, right? It's the same with our thoughts and our goals and our inner growth, right? So the visioning board can help develop that vision board, put it out there, and then keep chasing it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I created a vision board in Canva this year,
Is there nothing you can't do in Canva? You're amazing.
That's right.
So amazing.
There's so much you can do in Canva, and
there's so much you can do in Canva. You're awesome.
Everybody can learn it. Everybody can learn it. But sometimes people don't even have a whole stack of magazines anymore, right? So, or they have a virtual workshop webinar happening. People can still use these kinds of activities, and an upcoming workshop that I have too about reaching our audience in different presentation layers and infusing the different ways that we can light up and engage people in the learning experience. So having activities like this, and it can work online or offline, without having the magazines that you cut out. If it's something virtual, you can take pictures and put it together in a collage. So I printed it out, and I might overlay this, but for you to see. Now, these were some that I put together, and they mean more things, right? So that's where the words are helpful. But honestly, it's interesting putting on there, and I picked my word for this year was abundance. And that's partly why I'm reading this too. It actually makes me very uncomfortable to put pictures of money or even acknowledge that I'm reading a book like this. And so there's some deeper reasons why it makes me uncomfortable. And I know that's a stretch, and that's pushing me out of my comfort zone. All the more reason why I have to put it out there. And I'm being very intentional on something that's uncomfortable.
Yep. And that is great. And you're acknowledging that it's triggering you into a lower level, and then you can start poking around at it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, it is. And now what am I going to do about it? Because it's no longer serving me. Right. So I need to push myself forward. That's awesome.
Yeah, which is great. So I think even if people don't put their vision boards for everybody else to see, I mean, that's definitely putting themselves out there even more but sometimes to be accountable, like if we want to live healthier, if people want to do a vlogging series on that, that's a tool then to put themselves out there to other people. That's a different kind of accountability, in that way, but people can still put something on their vision board, even if they don't show it to anyone else. That makes them uncomfortable. That, especially if they're that perfectionist of, I don't think. And I like the adding words beyond the pictures too, as to what does that mean?
Yeah. And you don't have to fall on a sword. You don't have to do everything. If it's a stretch to capture it for yourself on your vision board, you don't need to share it with anybody, right? There's no right or wrong.
That's right.
It's you push yourself as far as you can every day. Just push yourself one tiny step forward, right? I always say, how can we push ourselves in positive forward motion incrementally every day?
Yes.
Right. It doesn't have to, we don't have to leap, right? But how are we constantly evolving and self-actualizing, right?
Step by step.
Your personal life, your professional life, your career, your organization. How are we pushing ourselves incrementally forward in positive forward motion? Because that's what we all want.
Yeah.
Right? That we fundamentally, I choose to believe that everybody wants to be their best, right? I doubt people wake up in the morning and decide, you know what, that's it. Today I'm going to be rotten.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean that some days we don't wake up and are rotten,
Yes.
but I think people truly want to be their best. Right. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
set your vision and go for it. Right. Even if half it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. It's that going for it. And it's okay if something was on our vision board for 1 year and we didn't get to it, move it on to the next year, but
Absolutely.
don't let go of those visions. And I want to encourage people to use this, whether it's personally, professionally, for themselves or their business or their organization or department. And it's a great activity and tool to go beyond that personal goals, what people might think of as vision boards, and consider doing this as an activity for their, what you talk about with leadership, or even how they're going to reach their audience, what do they want to infuse as a speaker or a workplace trainer, and how do they want to reach their audience in different ways, and visually put some things to that. So with words or sounds, how cool would it be to have a vision board that's really multimedia or something?
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that when, as you said, in corporate jobs, in our different aspects of our careers, we don't always make time for that creativity if it's not built into what our role is.
Yeah.
But I think that so much innovation in the workplace and brainstorming and all of that happens through allowing for space and time, even being intentional about it for the creativity. How much we get out of this actually helps other aspects of who we are.
And if you're a leader, right, you then have the positional power to bring this to your team, right? So you can say, you know what, I want us all to tap into a little innovation, a little creativity, a little strategic thinking, and pull it all together. And so you can then make that happen for your team, right? And then that infuses your whole organization with like a jet fuel of energy. Right. So, and then that's contagious, because energy is contagious, like that good stuff and the not so good stuff. Right. So, anytime you can be generating the good stuff, the good energy, the anabolic energy, then you're helping your organization. That becomes the contagion.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Lesley. This was, I think we dove into different things because we weren't super scripted and just opened ourselves up to this organic conversation, and had some really good nuggets of learning and gold that people can take and use. So Lesley Calvin from Positive Forward Motion, I am so grateful that you joined me today to have this conversation. And so, as you said, whenever anyone is listening to this or watching it or reading about it, to take this as their motivation and encouragement to do this at any time of the year. And to use it in different ways, whether as a leader, speaker, facilitator, personally or professionally, for an organization or individual. This is a great aspect, tool, and item or activity that can be used. And so I encourage vision boards to be something that is considered. And my name is Patricia Regier. This is Trish Talks. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Lesley, if you have any final words you want to say.
Oh, well, you just summed that whole session up so beautifully. I'm not sure what, if anything, I can add, but Patricia, thank you so much for having me on this. And I loved every little rabbit hole that we fell down chatting. It's always such a delight chatting and leading and learning with you. I believe in vision boards. I believe in visioning, whatever that means to the individual person. And like you said, use it in your personal life, use it in your professional life, use it to grow your leadership, grow your team, grow your organization, grow everything. And however you can tap into it to get yourself in positive forward motion, you do that. It's awesome. So awesome. Yeah, and as always, if anybody has any questions or if I said something and you didn't quite understand it or want a little bit more, please feel free to shoot me an email at lesliecalvincoaching@gmail.com.
And I will be adding links under, so any platform that this is going to be hosted on, I will be adding links below. So if you're catching it now, both Lesley and I have workshops and things coming up. I have a 2020 vision webinar that's coming up because it's appropriate timing. But vision boards can be used at any time and can be a different lens that we put on any particular topic to get creative and use a different type of activity. So we both have workshops coming up. But even if you catch this later, I'm sure we'll still have workshops coming up, and you can check out our programs and services. And I'm just so pleased to have this conversation. And I loved that you said about going down rabbit holes, because there's some benefits to that as well.
Yes. Yes, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when the good stuff happens, right?
That's right. That's right. Opening ourselves up to this fun, right? And vision boards can be a lot of fun, which is not a bad thing. Just because something's fun and creative, it can still be really innovative and have purpose as well.
One of my core values is fun, actually.
Good.
It's important. Work hard.
It is. It is. It's important. In no matter what we're doing, to have fun and infuse that into what our intentions are.
I can tell you, very few people would hire me to come into their organization if my workshops weren't fun. Exactly. Yeah, the last thing
fun is important. Yeah, and it's a great way to reach your audience and draw them in and engage them, and then they actually walk away with learning something. So that's awesome. So thank you to everyone joining us. Again, thank you to Lesley. And if you want to go down more rabbit holes with us, you can check out both of our platforms. You can subscribe, follow, engage with us, and let us know what rabbit holes you would like us to go down with you in the future. Thank you so much, Lesley, and to all of you for joining us.
It's organic.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think that's what makes it a really good video, is that I tend to not script as much as some people do.